Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Economic Development Committee. Today's Wednesday, August 28th. Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. That back, all right? All right.
Second.
All right, so we're calling the meeting to order a little later, 6:36. All right, so we won't do public input until at least probably 10 of. I'll make a note of that. All right, let's get to our business. So we have a lot of minutes to approve. So why don't we go through that? Did everyone have a chance to read them? There's a lot of people saying, you want to go through them one at a time? They're all attached in the portal here, so people know whether to abstain or not. Okay, so why don't we look at, so let me write it down. We have May 29th, June 26th, I'll call them one at a time, July 16th, and July 31st. All right, let's go look at the first set for the May 29th. Okay. Is everyone here for those? Laura?
Everyone except Jason.
Jason was
Peter
not
and
here
Jason.
yet.
And Jay.
Peter.
Oh, he wasn't there then.
Jason, Peter.
Okay, so do we have a quorum here of those who were? So Peter's here, right? Marion, myself, right? Laura, and Jeremy. All right, so does anybody have any changes they would like to make to these minutes?
Nope.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the May 29th minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Great, Laura?
I'll second it.
Okay, Marion. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Good. Next batch. That will be the June 26th meeting. It seems so far away, May and June, huh? All right. All right. So, I do believe we have enough here that does anybody have any questions on these?
Nope.
I did not.
You did not? All right. All right. All good? All right. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the June 26 meetings?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the June 26th meeting minutes for the Economic Development Committee.
I'll second.
All right. Great. All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Aye.
Very good. Next will be the July 16th minutes. All right, Peter, Jason, looks like we have all here. Let's see, were you here? Yes, you were.
I think everyone was
Yeah.
here. That was the special meeting.
yeah.
Those
that was
fire
the
station.
That we
meeting,
had, the
yeah.
6 o'clock one,
A through H.
before it was supposed to be a planning.
Right, it's supposed to be a planning board meeting.
Oh, I remember that, yes, okay. All right, so anybody have any changes that like to make to the July 16th minutes?
No.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the July 16th minutes. Anyone?
Motion to approve?
Here. You have a second?
I'll second Peter's motion.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, next would be the July 31st minutes.
Yeah, I did.
Was that it then?
July 31st.
So absent on those were Jeremy, Peter,
Yes, you were there.
and Marion. Says she was absent.
Yeah, I think I was not there, stuck in the airport.
All right, so who was here was Peter, Jason, Connie, Laura, and myself, I believe. All right. All right, does anybody have any changes they would like to make to the July 31st minutes? All right. I will entertain a motion to approve them, if they would like to. Anyone want to approve the July 31st minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the July 31st minutes.
Great. Anyone second?
Second.
Great. I should have done this first. Any discussion? Sorry about that. Okay. All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who say no. Anybody want to abstain?
Aye.
I do.
Half and half. All right, so they pass. All right. Just so the public is aware, we all received resignation from Connie Jackson. So we wish her well and thank her for everything that she has done. Okay. Close that out, and let's go back to our agenda. So it just says business items, if I recall, right? Business. So we have a lot on our plate. We're getting ready for a focus group. Let me see what's under that. So I'm going to hand it over to Kim and discuss how many attendees we have and how we're going to go forward with the focus group presentation ideas we had, or maybe they're going to change, I don't know. So I'm going to hand it off to you, Kim.
So we had 6 individuals sign up for the focus group session. And Ms. Gandia sent over an updated schedule, which I think looks awesome. But I understand now with only 6 people, we may want to discuss altering maybe even the location. I think the school
Overkill.
auditorium would kind of be overkill, or just cafeteria be too large and get lost, so. Jay,
It makes
ideas?
Well, yeah, I mean, just such a small group of people in a space that large would really, really be awkward and I think intimidating. Realistically, at this point, we significantly outnumber the number of people who'd be participating. So we kind of don't want a little group of people in the middle of the room and all of us kind of looking at them. So that'll be a little bit weird too. But I mean, it's, you know, what the group wants to do is up to you. But obviously, with a group that small, that's one group. So
Yeah.
just in terms of looking at your agenda, it doesn't make sense to have that one group meet and then break out and report out and meet. I mean, it's just my sense. It probably doesn't make sense to do a PowerPoint presentation. It, you know, I think our thinking was a large group of people, and you know, if we're going to have a small group of people, even if a few more people sign up, that's still a small group. We might want to think about. Yeah. I mean, doing a community room and doing something a little more intimate and conversational, and you know, kind of refocusing it and making it a little bit more casual. And I mean, again, it kind of depends on what the goals are, but maybe it's an opportunity to have some conversation between members of the committee and some of the people who are interested in participating.
So that would be on camera as well, right? So maybe that would spark more interest. That wouldn't be on camera? You wouldn't have that
I
going?
don't think the intent was
I
to do it on
wouldn't.
camera.
No.
All right. Okay, I was gonna say that we could, maybe people would see it and maybe want to participate more.
The problem is, I mean, so if you have a quorum of the Economic Development Committee, there's nothing in state law that requires it to be on camera, ever, even if it's a Board of Selectmen. But you have to take some type of
Minutes.
meeting minutes, which do not need to be detailed. Who,
Okay.
when, where, what.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think 6 is a strong enough voice to go with? And then we see what we come back with from that?
It's either that or
I know
nothing,
Another
so.
election coming up. I don't know if we want another survey. I don't know if you can with a federal election, if it's another thing. So I'm just looking at options here, just to see what the group
I can
thinks.
tell you that you can't survey people in the polling place.
Oh, no,
Because
no.
the facilities committee is gonna do it outside.
Right, in the dark
Building.
after 5, right?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. That's unfortunate. It's a lot different at a town meeting versus a state or federal.
I think if we had a PowerPoint presentation, we could at least post that after the session.
Mhm.
It may be overkill for the group that's there, but it may be worthwhile to be able to publish it.
If we took notes, we could make a PowerPoint from
Oh, absolutely.
the feedback that's given and
Yeah.
then post that.
I mean, I would think we'd want to take notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we take, then we'd note who the participants are, everybody who's present, when the meeting started, what the topics were, and yeah. It'd be important to do that.
I am concerned with the low numbers.
Yeah, Jay, if I could ask, we talked about maybe a two-step approach to this if our numbers were low. And so want to see if it's worth still holding this and using that as one data set, it's a very small N, and then trying again later with maybe an online option or some of the other options we talked about. Is it okay to kind of put those two together, or should it really be all done at the same time?
My gut is that you had a really phenomenal response to the survey
Right.
that was done. And that's really a tremendous amount of input. And, this may be an opportunity to just have some conversation with some interested people. But obviously, it's not going to be representative of the community. And I don't know who's on the list, but especially if it's people who are already involved, you're probably not going to gain a lot of insight into what residents think. But, this can still be an opportunity to have a conversation that's a little bit more informal. Maybe we still have some pizza and everybody's in a room together, and we can still facilitate it by using the talking points to prompt the conversation. And you take that as input. And then I think, I don't know, but I think my instinct would be that what we might want to do is kind of something that we talked about a while before, is follow up with another more focused, shorter survey instead of trying to do another focus group, because people did respond and they may respond again, to something like that. And that might give, because if the goal is input, that's really what you're looking for. What's the best way to get it? And if that's the way people like to give it, from the comfort of their homes or whatever, maybe that's the way to go for that additional input you're looking for.
I did hear from a couple residents that this is a bad time with school starting, fall sports starting up, that they just felt this was a bad time. But when's a good time, right?
Right.
I mean, you gotta get
Summer
into
was
the
also a bad
holidays,
time. No one was around, so never a good time.
Right.
Summer's a bad time.
Yeah.
When would be a good time? So you're saying let's take a little sabbatical, right? Do our focus group here, not long, because we got to report back to, and find out what's going on. But so when is a good time? I
It's
mean,
probably 3 weeks in, February, and maybe 3 weeks in April.
Those are vacation months.
No,
We're gone again.
not taking
What
early
I'm saying
November.
is that there's always a reason why it's
Right.
not a good time.
Right.
It's a school vacation time.
Yeah.
It's the holidays.
Yeah.
There's
You can
always
only do what you
reasons.
can do.
Right.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, you gotta just move on.
Right.
We can come up as a group, maybe start making some recommendations, maybe taking what was brought in as part of the previous surveys, throw the map on the table, start coming up with ideas, put a plan together, and then maybe at that point in time, we could have people from the pub put that plan out there, have people from the public come in and comment on the plan. You can
Yeah.
do an end around.
Right.
I think the people who did sign up deserve a chance to voice their
Yeah.
opinions
Yeah,
if
that's
they,
right.
if they went to.
They
the
should help us
public.
come up with our plan here based on what Jay's saying, so.
I mean, there are two of the 6 that sit on boards. Both are new. So, I mean, it's not like these are people that are actively, have been involved for a long period of time within town government.
I think, Jason, you raised a good point in that once you start to put something out there in terms of recommendations and thoughts, people will respond.
Yeah, it'll cause some response to come back to us. Good or bad.
Right, but exactly. But
Get a reaction.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
now it's not kind of a vague thing. It's, you're talking about doing something. It might
Yeah.
affect me. It might, it interests me. It might affect my views of the community, so. That's a good thought.
Okay.
But I think for the 12th, I think we can still kind of, still keep these questions that we had, and let's use those to facilitate the conversation.
I think, I mean, we're trying to get public participation. I think it's a really hard task, and I think the only reason why we had such good data was because we did it at the election. If it was any other time, we wouldn't get it. So if we want to wait another year for that, for another town election, other than that, I don't think we're going to get a lot of data. So I think, to piggyback off of what Jason was saying, we have data. That's one component of our overall charge. I think we move forward with the 12th, see what we have, and then I think this board is comprised of different people with different backgrounds for a reason, so then we can move to the next step, like the recommendations, the processes, like this is like step number 2 in the charge. So I think we take it, we have what we have, and when we do our final report to the Board of Selectmen, we point out, this is what we tried to do for public input, this is what we got, this is the data, this is how we interpret it. Step number 3 was what it was, and then we move forward.
Yeah. Just bring the report back and
Yeah.
have some closure. It's too bad that we have a primary coming up, but it's just too short a time. I don't know. That's before the focus group.
Yes, before the focus.
So we can't do
group,
that.
right.
Yeah.
That would have been another one. But we all, I think, agree with that, right? We can't let it be out there forever. And
No, we gotta
if
do
people
something.
don't respond, we have to report that back, right?
Mhm.
So, all right.
Could we leave the registration open until the day before? I mean, I think even if we get a couple more, we'd be able to manage, any influx of 5 more without any problem, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's right. That would be, we know it's not going to be 50 more.
right.
So I'll leave the form on the website
Okay.
and in our lobby.
If we're gonna move the location, we need to publish that too. Because we don't want people showing up at Campbell.
That means I'll change that.
Yeah.
I'll, if the community room is available.
That'd be ideal.
And it is not.
Oh.
Is this room available?
The Facilities Committee is there.
Oh.
Yes.
This room? Can we
This
swap?
room is available.
This will work.
I think it would work. I mean, we could set up the chairs a certain way,
Yeah.
make it inviting, and
Sure.
The facilities committee's a big group,
Oh, it is? All right.
too big.
Darn.
So, so then Jay, we're just gonna go on, as expected, just kind of make it, without dividing up the groups, right? Just make it more informal, because we're getting into
Won't divide
materials and all
it. It'll
that.
be easy to kind of give an overview of what we're trying to accomplish. And, again, we won't have to do report out because we're all here. So everybody will just hear. So it'll be just a modified version of what we have, but we'll keep to the same questions and we'll, facilitate the responses and the conversation. And I think with a group that small, because I'm assuming the committee's gonna wanna be there, I think everybody can also participate in a way, or also kind of ask questions and make it a little bit more, free form.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be great.
All right, so the finalized presentation and materials for facilitators, I guess we'll just switch the way we're doing it at this point.
Yeah.
You had the questions already prepared, right? You took them back with
Yeah,
you
well, you
last
guys,
time.
Laura created them
Yep.
in the outline, so we've already got
Just
them.
keep dealing with that. All right. Well, I'm looking at our, why don't we open it up to to the public? Hi.
It's too bad that the sign-up was so low. But on the positive side, it wasn't only Jim that was gonna be on the focus group. That was a concern I had, that I would be the only one signing up for this. The other positive is maybe, spend as much money on pizza. But when you talked about putting together a presentation and notes from, what occurs in the focus group, I was just wondering if that being sent out to, was it the 300 people in email and present, giving them the presentation, would a follow-up meeting, and also asking them, would you be interested in follow-up meeting to meet and discuss what was obtained by the focus group. I don't know if that would work to get more people interested.
You mean send it out to the original people who said they would be interested, okay, that 300 people or whatever it
I think it
was.
was 1,300, wasn't it?
Well, the ones
I think
that responded that they
316 or
would
something
be in
signed up
focus
Yeah.
for
group.
emails or whatever, something like
The
that.
You
ones I
reached out to
gave
them
the-
again, right, for tonight?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yes.
But I think
That's a
what
good idea.
Jim's saying is that once we have something more concrete, if we send it to them, maybe they'd be, they
Come back.
expressed interest originally, so maybe with something a little bit more tangible, then they would, right, is that what you, yeah, then they would respond, yeah.
I do like the idea of leaving the sign up open until the 12th, until the last day, because some people won't respond until it's like the last minute.
Mhm.
That's how they do it.
Yeah, I
My
agree.
feedback.
That's good, because we're putting together the first survey, then we're having this second data point focus group, and then we'll do the follow-up survey and then the PowerPoint, so it's building up, our findings in a nice way. Okay. Well, I'm looking at what's next on the agenda. It says next meeting date, so is there anything else?
It's a short one.
It's really short. Does anybody else have ideas? I mean, I know we all have very busy lives and we focus for a few minutes when we get here, but I really hope the community does take the opportunity to come in. I know people are busy, but this really does impact taxes. And, maybe the next 20, 30 years of the model of what's behind you on the wall, so. It's hard. I know people are busy, but I just hope that more people participate and not be surprised by what happens. Because if nothing happens, it's just going to be organic and take its way as it goes, right?
Right.
Ready to get ahead of it. So we were talking quickly this, later for computer people, later on with models. You could paint models of what could happen with the tax structure, right? If this land goes this way or this land goes that way, you could put some kind of monetary, figuring out what taxes could be or could not be, But that can be later, but just some kind of a model of the tax implications of some decisions in the town. It's almost, again, I don't know if this is going to stay as an economic development committee or is this going to turn into a tax strategy? I don't know. We're leaving it open to see what comes back. So you see the taxes going up, the revenue is not matching, so.
I think that's part of kind of the root of it is what are people, when people think about economic development, what are they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the primary issue? I think from the survey, I think it's pretty clear what people want to see in town and don't want to see in town. What they value. I think they've been very clear about that. So if there are going to be strategies put together, it's kind of looking at what was that input and then what makes sense. Because I think to Laura's point, there's been a lot of work around getting input. The next step is going to be start to solidify these and start to think about some strategies, some recommendations.
I think it's clear, we have an idea of what people want and don't want, but I think there would have to be like an educational piece to let people know that the things that they want aren't necessarily going to have an impact on taxes, or, maybe they're thinking that, if we have enough coffee shops or little stores or whatever, but maybe that doesn't have the impact that they're looking for, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that the average citizen really equates that. They just think, oh, we have another business and it's gonna save us money on taxes.
I think we should probably try to blend
Right.
Jay's comments, Laura's, and yours here together and let's do our September 12th meeting here, then cause some kind of decision on our side of what we recommend, throw it out there to get feedback, but in the same time, which is a time frame, we want to go to the selectmen and this date.
Yeah.
And now everyone knows our timeline. It's out there. And now, once we have our choices, can model that, like you're saying here, and the people now have what we want to do here, speak up now or that's it.
It's the what if
So-
scenarios. What if we did
Yeah.
this? What
Exactly.
if we did that? It's really just to see what could
Just
happen.
mold it all together and just
Lagging
get it done in the
indicator.
next few months, and that's what it is. That's what it is.
I agree.
If no one wants to say anything to us,
I agree.
what can we do?
Yeah,
with you.
we've certainly
So.
tried.
Well, and you know, so I think we're trying to be as open and transparent as we can be. So the budget that was submitted to the Board of Selectmen 2 weeks ago is on the website, under Board of Selectmen, because it's the Board of Selectmen's budget. It's not ready, for the budget committee yet. I think you're gonna see over the next couple weeks, some discussions on things that you can and you cannot pull back on. So, I mean, there's some regulatory costs that you just don't have a choice on. And so that's gonna be difficult, and at some point, the board's gonna have to make some decisions on how to move forward. And then the budget committee is going to be in a spot because legally they have to get it out of the tax cap. So, but Marion's right. I don't think, not everything that the people put on the survey will have the impact that they want it to have.
Right.
And I think we heard loud and clear, they wanted lower taxes.
Right, so they need, and I think you tried with your, your seminars you did at the library, but, people talk a lot about these things, but they don't wanna show the impetus to show up for these kind of meetings, but really, to get that kind of an impact, they're gonna have to, they need to know they need to expect to see in town.
Right.
To really lower taxes, so.
So maybe some people are just comfortable now, money-wise, and it's not affecting them, but we're trying to think 5 or 10 years out when inflation's doing what it's doing to the budget every year, up 10, 15%, Yeah, either that or we're gonna pay either out of pocket or hopefully somebody else can help, or not, whatever they want. So, yeah. And I think the average person too, they don't understand the money piece of it, they don't understand the conservation piece of it either, right? They're just going about their lives, right?
Right.
I get that.
I think what the CIP tries to do with projecting it out a number of years, so you know what the, capital expenses are gonna be, like buildings and, roads and things, because you can't just be surprised by some giant, expense that comes up all of a sudden and you need millions of dollars, so.
That dollar value is not going down either. You've seen the SIP too, right? Yep.
Yeah, I would say the next Board of Selectmen meeting, September 9th. Our auditors will be here. You're gonna hear some things. Our second half of our budget will be presented. A lot of data to it. They are at a pivotal point.
I think the survey that was done prior, the only thing that was really missing out of there was the where component. So most of the folks that mentioned things, they mentioned, what they would like to see. It really wasn't built into the survey of where they would like to see it. And I think in a lot of cases here, it's like what they would like to see, people kind of hyper-focus on 3A, right in the core of the community. To me, stuff on the outsides, I don't know if the citizens, I don't want to use the word care, but I think things on the outskirts of town, in my opinion, I think the public would say that it makes sense to focus on large-scale kind of economic development.
At the north end and the south end,
south end,
and just
yeah,
not
the
touch
south
sort
end
of the
of town.
farmland in the middle.
Well, also the farmland in the south end. The southwestern area, that I don't think people would support developing.
Oh, where Wilson
Farm,
Yeah.
people wouldn't support that. But I think the northern commercial area and 102, sure. I think that's right.
There's just not a lot of room on 102.
No, there isn't.
There isn't.
There isn't.
There's not that much in the.
It's a quarter mile.
There isn't that much in the
area
north
either.
end either.
There isn't. When you're talking, well, it depends what type of business you're talking. There's not a lot in the north end.
Well, going all the way back to the first meeting, our big disadvantage is, what's the draw? What kind of business can you get here that's gonna be significant enough to make a true impact on the tax base? We
Good
just,
point. Because you think about it realistically, what's really a needle mover? You know, is a needle one restaurant on 3A is not a needle mover. A needle mover is something big.
right, that draws people in, and right now our biggest attraction is Mel's, and the golf course, right? That's what brings people from outside of town in.
And Romano's on Friday.
Well,
That brings people,
It has
it's
to
already
be a
here, already to remind us.
yes,
So, and every, I don't mean this the way it sounds, a restaurant that's just a restaurant that is not a destination is probably not gonna fare well for people to have to travel to. There are restaurants in the southern tier that are destinations that people will travel to from,
Other towns.
yeah. Good distances.
Tiny Little Mason has two,
Yep.
but that's unusual.
What are the two? I remember the
In Mason?
pancake place.
Picnic Place is.
Oh,
is
right.
one of-
Picnic
and
Place
Parker's
and
Miracle
Parker's,
Grounds.
yeah.
Parker's, yeah. I didn't know Picnic Place was in Mason.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
nice. And they're not, modern facility, but they're beautiful.
They're not modern
Yeah,
at
right,
all.
just-
Yeah,
Lovely view.
especially Picnic
But that's
Place.
part of their charm.
That's part of it.
That's part of the draw.
The other thing is, how do we, say we wanted something more like light industrial, which people mentioned, but, we have to draw companies here too that wanna, that make it attractive for them to come here. So,
Right.
that's another thing. So wanting it and getting it are two different
Like
things. LKQ, right, they came several years ago now, I guess. And you can't, unless you know they're there, you don't know
See
they're
it,
there.
yeah.
But they don't need you to
Right.
either,
No, right.
right?
They're not doing
Take
retail, so
left
they're good.
turns out of the driveway.
You
Keep them
know,
off 3A. if we can.
Somewhat conversely, and I'm not saying this is what you want to do, but maybe the strategy is, conservation land and million-dollar homes,
That's a strategy.
right? At what price point does a house pay for itself? And then at what price point is it a net contributor,
So you're saying the town itself is a destination.
right?
So what areas would that be?
I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm just
No.
saying, for some communities, that is in fact
There's
what keeps, that is their strength, is that they have high-value residential property. And
Property tax is their way to.
Large
that
homes.
generate, right, large homes that generate significantly more revenue than they demand.
Oh,
Right.
from from service.
So you can lower the tax rate, but you have most of the homes, so.
Again, I'm not saying that's what we should do, but that is a strategy.
Yep.
Or
These
just
are-
offer,
These are considerable, and you can do it because of your closeness to the city and now remote work, but, these are higher wage earners.
or just offer to the point of moving the needle, right? Some of the things that would take to move the needle may be tough for residents to stomach, right? Because they would take probably significant changes to make them happen. But thinking about kind of the scope of our charge, I think another part of economic development is kind of economic vitality, right? Livability in town, and where things that don't move the needle may still have significant value to the residents, right? As far as quality of life. Some of these smaller businesses wouldn't change your taxes, but they could create, community gathering spots, opportunities for, students, young professionals that are looking for entry-level jobs. Those things add value, right? I'm representing rec, which if we expanded hugely or got cut in half, it wouldn't change the tax base at all, right? But it certainly contributes significantly to the experience of living in Litchfield. So even if we don't get to a place of being able to move the needle, because there's not the stomach for it, I still think what we're working towards can help guide us in some of the smaller things that help improve, the quality of life or sustain the quality of life as residents want it.
That can still drive up property values by doing that and having those amenities.
Sure, right.
So,
That's right. Being an attractive
Yeah.
community, a
Right.
place that's desirable to live in.
it'd be harder to buy here, but it'd be more attractive to want to come here, so. So, double-edged sword.
We're unique.
That's important.
We don't have to recreate anything here. We can go very quickly around the town, outside of the town to get what we want, so we're unique that way. The only thing I saw that people wanted was a supermarket. Didn't we have one where?
Where Small Tube was a
Small Tube,
supermarket
like
many
that.
years ago,
Yes.
long before, even before my time here.
Yes,
It's fairly small.
so, I don't know if it would support it.
But
I-
there's,
I'm
you know, Market
jealous.
Basket is all of about 4 miles. That,
Yeah.
Well, you have Hannaford,
Well,
Shaw's.
Hannaford, I mean,
20 minutes out
Probably
back.
5 miles.
and it's 4 miles and it's 20 minutes to get there.
Right.
Convince them to build a new one, right?
Yeah.
And while the likelihood of that might not be great, would we allow it if it were feasible? And I would say right now, under our current zoning, no. Because we specifically put a size limit in the zoning ordinance for the northern commercial zone to keep out larger, big box types
Warehouses.
stores. Well, I mean, specifically retail, we limited the square footage. Now, the thinking was people don't want, or we don't want, big box type retail. So that was a conscious choice. And maybe that's a choice that should be revisited, but that was a choice.
I think you gotta think about what, and I think I said this before, one of our weaknesses is what big business is gonna wanna come to Litchfield. And if I put on a big business hat, I don't think I would come to Litchfield, because you have all amenities everywhere else. You don't have that traffic coming through, who's ever
Right.
passing through Litchfield. There's usually people who live in Litchfield, so you're not getting that draw. I mean, in past experience with restaurants and other businesses that have tried to come into town, the success rate, I mean, just look at that, and I think that's telling as to
Right.
what we're gonna get here in town. So I think that's a fact that we can't overlook. I mean, I know people are like, oh, we want restaurants. Yeah, I do too, but if I'm a restaurant owner, I'm not coming to Litchfield because I'm not gonna get that foot traffic. I'm not gonna get those people, excluding Romanos.
That's your destination.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but the thing is, if you're a destination, are you gonna come to Litchfield?
I mean, if Wilson Farm turned into a cool restaurant in that
In that barn, yeah.
with a
Cool.
brewery, with a deck overlooking the river, that would be a destination.
Boat rides?
What was that?
Boat rides?
Yeah.
And we talked about that, I think, before, like, our charm is
Ferry to Merrimack to get to,
the river.
An elevator
Yeah.
down.
Cultural charm. I think that's the selling point of Litchfield, is using the farmlands to do stuff like that, tying things into the rural agricultural community and the river that we have. Other than that, I think our options are limited.
But it does raise up, I'm sorry.
If you go in the route that you were just talking about, where your higher value homes and conservation land, then in those type of communities, you generally don't have the large box stores, the
That's right.
things like that. Because transportation and mobility is not an issue for those people.
Right.
Now, I've only been here 2 years, but I will tell you, there are some within town, transportation is an issue. So, and, we've looked into it, we've talked with Donna, there's no good way to get transportation to Litchfield.
public transportation, you mean?
So, yeah, so people, will do Ubers
Right.
and things of that sort, DoorDash or whatever it is. But in those types of communities, you generally have people travel to a distance to get their things.
Because it's a different, I mean, if you're, the types of communities outside of urban areas like a Portsmouth, I mean, what, the draw is usually the rural charm. It's having that, charming New England village and the farmland and the orchards, and that's what draws those folks. They don't want, they might not mind having to drive, they don't mind driving 20 minutes to go to a shopping center or whatever, but they don't want that in the community that
Right.
they're choosing to live in.
We're just missing the whole village part. Charming, but no village.
But still, I mean, clearly, and it comes up, it's not just at this survey, it's every survey. What do people value in Litchfield? That is what they value. They value the farmland and, the charm along 3A, and that's what they that's what they associate,
Yeah.
with. That's their view of Litchfield, and people do value that.
There could be like a two-pronged, I'll just call it a marketing approach to this. One is a 3A strategy, which we heard loud and clear, keep the rural character, the farming, so on and so forth. And that would be a good area to have little pop-up farms, if possible, farmers market. We heard it all already. So you might have a marketing strategy on that. And I think at one point in time, I talked to one of the Kims. I do a lot of traveling, and there's this county in Virginia, Loudoun County, Virginia, west of DC. They were extremely rural before sprawl kind of, TC kind of took over. But over like the past decade, they hyper-focused on farm-to-table, breweries, and wineries. And you go down these old farm roads, and they're just spotted all over the place. And people come from everywhere just to kind of go to these farm stands, go to these breweries, wide open fields. They're awesome. At the end of that is actually Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, which is kind of like
Yeah,
a
its
nice,
own
cool little
destination,
town at the end. So you might have like a strategy, for 3A. But then we have to have a strategy for those other areas on the map that you see there, or the commercial and industrial zones.
Yep.
And, a big question is, do we expand them? Do we keep them the same? Do we contract them? I mean, that's a question we have to answer. But, I'd like to know, Jay, like what are the options in these areas? I mean, we know in the north end we have gas and we have water, but we don't have sewer.
Right.
South end, we know we've got water. Hudson has sewer, that would be a whole intermunicipal agreement, all kinds of stuff going on, but, there might be some options down there. It would be interesting to know from you, based on looking at the existing zoning that we have right now, what are you seeing out there as far as land use types that would fit those areas? So in the southern part of town, you might, if that land ever became available, I'm not talking about the Wilson land, but the land at the very southern part of town, that's actually a decent area for warehouses, because you're potentially out on 102, that could be an option there. But then in the north part of town, we've got the red area up there, it would be interesting to know what the trends are and what could potentially fit up there. And it could be, we one time had Barron's here that was gonna build up next to St. Francis, but that kind of fell through. There's been talk about mixed-use development. It'd be good to know, to see what that actually looks like, and that would at least give us something, a target to shoot at, or throw something
Somebody to
out
try
on
to
the table.
attract to come here,
Yeah, and
What-
just,
what
to
will
some
work
extent, I'm sorry.
So, no. Wasn't there something in the south end before 9/11 that was gonna happen down there? I think it was when the circumferential highway was still talking about dropping an exit
It was-
into Litchfield.
Yeah, but that was 20 years or more ago. It was a very long time ago. With the circumferential gone, I mean, realistically, with the circumferential gone, the likelihood of seeing something significant there isn't great. It just isn't, because you don't have the traffic volumes and you don't have the highway access. And it's just unlikely you're gonna see a distribution, center go in there. I mean, not to say that you won't get anything. I mean, realistically, you can, if there were a market for another self-storage facility, then sure, right? That's the kind of thing that, you're talking about. The northern commercial zone, more smaller scale, retail and business, is possible, but there's not a lot, which is why that mixed-use concept came up, because there may be more of an opportunity there. But there are some other things that I think, and maybe we're getting in the weeds, that I think are really interesting. We've seen it both in the north end and the south end, which is, the planning board recently approved, there was a 3-lot commercial subdivision right on 3A, and one of those then was approved with a house in the front and a contractor's business in the back. That's something that's really pretty realistic in an area like that, and that's kind of a nice development pattern. And then one was also approved recently on the south end of 3A, and you know, it fits in with the kind of character of the area. And the one in the north end, the building that was built, was designed to look agricultural, and I think there's some real opportunities to explore that. Right now, our opportunity for mixed use is extremely limited. We allow one residence and one business, so that might be an area that we could explore. Are there ways that we could do more with that kind of development? And because I do think this is an attractive community for small contractors. You know, your access from that perspective is pretty decent.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think I'm really intrigued about is, you know, your concept of, well, people might not want to see commercial development along 3A in the center of town. Oh, but what if, you know, Wilson Farm was turned, you know, had that, what was the farm stand became, you know, this kind of destination restaurant. How would people think about that? That might not, gee, that might not seem so bad. What if one of those few remaining, you know, nice historic colonials became a bed and breakfast? Would that be so bad? You know, are there certain types of uses that would be okay under certain conditions? You know, some sort of conditional use, some sort of controls that made sure that you kept that character. Maybe those are some things that, and maybe that's the kind of thing we could come up with, is some examples of things. I mean, I think we've seen what a Parker's Maple Barn looks like. Gee, that seems okay. Thinking of Pickety Place, that's a 1740s, you know, roughly house with a barn. That doesn't seem inconsistent, right? So maybe there are some things like that that people would be okay with. And then 102 is its own thing. There's different, you know, again, there's not much left on 102. But, you know, that also, you know, the reality is that just because something is got a building on it doesn't mean it stays that same way forever. You know, redevelopment happens. And you could see something developed that's maybe more intensive. And something else that we might want to look at is, could a higher intensity of development be allowed than we currently allow when you consider setbacks and, you know, lot coverage requirements? Maybe some of those could be more flexible so that you could get a higher return. Maybe a building height could be higher on 102. You know, maybe we could allow more multi-story building. You know, those are some things that we could think about as, and the more intensity of development, the higher the value.
And to piggyback off of that, I know there's other municipalities that have like overlay districts. Like we could have a Route 3 overlay district with some performance standards, some form-based zoning, some architectural guidelines that may allow different uses, but keep that flavor and that charm.
Right. I think it's doable.
Gotta check with the homeowners.
Well, I mean, obviously, but for any of that to happen, it would have to be approved at town meeting. So it's going to be the voters who weigh in. But you know, these are some interesting thoughts that could be put out there, and kind of see what the response is. What are, you know, how do people react? Be interesting. We've got real examples in the area that people are either probably familiar with or could see. So that's, and I'm sure there's other ones out there. If we start to think about surrounding towns, you know, within a reasonable radius, what are some other things that are out there that, you know, people could look at and say, gee, yeah, I like how that looks. Well, I think that works okay.
Discussion.
Have fun.
Have fun.
It'll be kind of, you know, but you know, that's, to me, that's kind of encouraging. Those are some things that I think are real that this committee could explore.
nice, Jay, maybe at a future meeting to bring some examples
It's exactly what
of
I'm
those
thinking
things,
is.
just so that we can discuss them.
We can get images of all of those types of things, and I'm sure we can find some more, tootling around.
Yeah, if we can grab them for September 12th, it'd be great too, to have them here for our 6.
It would.
Visitors.
We could do that, we could do
That'd be
that.
great.
We were already talking about that anyway, but we could
Right.
absolutely do that in September. for
Just
September
something to
12th.
look at.
Right,
Yeah.
get people's reaction. What do you think about when you see this? Can you envision that? I have to think about, there's gotta be some bed and breakfasts around. I've gotta just think of what they are. But there are,
I don't think you would get any pushback to that
you're right.
at all.
It'd be good to test it, so. Testing something with a smaller focus group is a great way to start.
Rose Farm.
What town is that?
Greenfield?
Rayfield, is that what you said?
Greenfield.
She said
Greenfield.
Greenfield.
Rose Farm.
There's a bed and breakfast in Lee.
Okay.
A nice house for that.
I do.
Really, Mary?
She has a nice house for that.
I mean, farm.
Sleeps 50.
Farm ones, not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, All Rose Farm, yeah, wedding venue.
Right.
But
But if it's a farm, then it's gonna get taxed as a farm.
Jeremy, what did you just say?
No, if it's a bed and breakfast.
All Rose Farm, it's a wedding venue
Yeah.
over in Greenfield. It's actually an old farm barn, so.
yeah, it's
It's
beautiful.
kind of like Gibbet Hill. My brother got married there down in, it's in Andover.
Yeah.
Old farm restaurant and stuff too. It's
There's one
nice.
in Wilton,
And it
too.
still looks like Wilson's. So it's not a giant paved parking lot. So,
My son got married in a barn too, in the Winthrop Carter House in Boscawen, and it's right on the main road, but it looks like an old,
yeah,
it was lovely.
maybe a good wedding venue.
They,
Whatever.
they book up like there's no
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even the Bedford Inn, I mean, that's what the Bedford Inn was.
Right. But we have that. That's sitting there all by itself.
That would be,
That's a really easy development for us.
Would be.
there aren't that many tea shops, tea rooms around.
All right.
Right. I'll start pulling together a little slide presentation on that, and in the meantime, if anybody else has one, you're like, oh, this would be a great one, send it to me.
Like, I love this, the Dunkin' in Hollis, that looks like I don't know if you've ever been to Hollis, there's a Dunkin' Donuts.
I've been to
And
that
You
Dunkin's.
would never even know it's a Dunkin' Donuts, and it's cute and it's farm-like. This is the backside of it, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
like.
Oh, it's like in a
it is-
house.
There's also Moulton's. I went there a few months ago, and I think it's in Amherst.
Okay.
It's a great little country store. It's got ice cream and candy. It's got a sub shop. It was amazing. And it just looks, it's this little white building.
Oh, yeah, that is.
It doesn't look like a
That's
Dunkin'.
Hollis's historic district, and
No.
that is a,
Yeah.
yeah.
But something like that, like an overlay district on 3A, if you have a Dunkin's in there, but it looks different than what a typical Dunkin's. But when you do stuff like that, then you get companies upset about their branding because they want their colors, they want this and they
They
want
do.
that. So it is definitely a struggle.
And it was a struggle.
Oh, okay.
Was.
Most of them also want traffic going by no matter what, which we can't. We can't provide that, sadly.
And there's some companies you can negotiate colors and things like that with.
Right.
There's others you cannot.
Cannot.
But in Hollis's historic district, you're not gonna negotiate in Amherst.
Right.
Amherst.
But it looks so nice.
Amherst is the same.
So
It's funny you
It's had a-
mentioned
it's had a
Loudon
good effect.
because years ago, Loudon was, traffic would take 2 hours to get to work, right? And I'm glad they saved it. That's good to hear. Yeah, and there was also a drugstore, not a drugstore, but like a CVS or something that did something on the outside. It did not look like a
Oh,
drugstore that you went in. That was local. I don't know if that was Merrimack or somebody had done that. But anyway, not that, I don't think they're coming. They're in trouble these days. All right, does anybody else have anything they would like to add, or?
No.
Do we meet next on Wednesday, September 25th. It's a formal meeting, right? All right.
We're gonna arrive at, for the 12th at.
Yeah. What time?
5:30?
6 was check-in.
You want
At
to do it at
6:15.
5:30?
5:30.
The setup and stuff for the actual focus group.
Oh,
What
yeah,
time?
so it starts at 6:30. Yeah, we should probably be here.
For 5:30?
Well,
not gonna take that long to set up.
It's just gonna be here.
Yeah.
Last
just
one,
gonna be
5:45?
We had
So-
registration
At 6.
at
6:15.
6:15.
So yeah, so we should probably be here by 6. Are we doing pizza?
Are we doing pizza, Jay?
I can talk to somebody I know, yeah.
I volunteered I'd bring like the drinks and all that stuff.
That'd be perfect. We all gonna be here? You gonna make it? You gonna be?
I am not gonna be here, I have
Oh,
a
Peter.
client
Everyone else?
event.
I'm
be- I'll be
50/50 as well. I might be away, and if I am away, I think Diane will hopefully step in.
Okay. Well, good numbers then.
Does the town still have like the water bottles, like the,
Yeah, we can have water, yeah, yep, absolutely.
And I can bring like notepads, pens, stuff like that.
So we're not, like to plan, so we're not gonna be assigned a specific task on that night. We're just showing up and it's just, you're taking the lead and we're just gonna kind of
Take a lead
follow.
on it and we'll keep it conversational.
okay.
Maybe not sit behind the desk, just
No, I would
get out there.
About rearranging the room?
Yeah, if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Nice.
She knows what you want.
We might get some good information. We might get some really good
Right,
information.
and we've
You
got
never
this screen, we can plug right into
Yeah.
that, so that'll make.
With a smaller group, people may be more willing to participate.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
forward to it. All right.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, is there anything else?
I agree.
Yeah, anything else, or ready to adjourn, or?
Adjourn.
All right, I don't think we need a vote to adjourn. Do we need a vote to
I
adjourn?
think you do.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second
Second.
Peter's motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
See you guys in a few weeks.
7:32.
Do we need to do a second public input? I do it school board, we have to do public input twice. We do public input twice.
See, I'm
At the school board.
No, okay. I was
It's
working.
typically,
They had a great.
Try to find a replacement for Connie.
I just did that trip with the kids, I got 2. I was afraid everything I
My
see
kid's
popping up is
gonna-
this